He was a human among aliens, but the princess made him equal. The transport chamber had been cold and humming with energy, and in a blink, he was no longer on familiar soil. He stepped into a world full of colors he had never seen, buildings that defied gravity, and creatures with shapes and forms that made him question everything he had learned about life. The air smelled sweet, a mixture of flowers and something almost metallic, and the sky above Zirian Prime shimmered with hues of green and violet. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and Kale quickly realized that he was being watched. Small, curious eyes followed him as he walked through the streets of Lumora, the capital city. He tried to ignore the stares, focusing on his own sense of wonder. The aliens around him moved with a grace he had never known, their limbs flowing in ways humans could not replicate, their voices melodic yet unfamiliar. Kale's clothes made him stand out even more. Earth fabrics, simple in design, looked strange and awkward here. He had been told that he would serve in the royal city, but he had no idea what that meant. The royal palace was enormous, a structure of crystal-like towers that reflected the multicolored sky. Its gates opened before him as though welcoming him, yet he felt an invisible barrier. The guards, who looked like they had been sculpted from glass and light, regarded him with polite suspicion. They spoke in a language that he could understand only because of the translator implanted in his earpiece, but even the words sounded strange, as if they carried more meaning than he could grasp. Kale was guided to a small room where he would live. It was simple compared to the grandeur outside, yet it was comfortable. A window overlooked the city, and he could see alien citizens moving about, some on floating platforms, others walking with four legs. He wondered how life here had evolved so differently from Earth. Despite the beauty, he felt isolated. No one like him had ever been here before, and the weight of being a stranger pressed down on him. The next morning, Kale was led to the palace's engineering wing. Machines hummed and floated in ways that made him dizzy with fascination. Holographic panels projected diagrams of energy grids, climate systems, and transportation networks. His human mind raced with curiosity. Even though the technology was advanced beyond anything on Earth, he noticed patterns, inefficiencies, and potential improvements. But every time he suggested an idea, the aliens would glance at one another and politely shake their heads. His contributions were considered interesting, but ultimately inferior. It was during one of these meetings that Princess Lyra first appeared. She moved differently from everyone else, with an elegance that was natural rather than formal. Her eyes were bright, not with judgment but with curiosity, and she studied Kale as if she were reading a book she could not put down. "You have ideas the others have not considered," she said. Her voice was soft yet confident. "Why do you hesitate?" Kale looked at her, surprised. Most aliens dismissed him outright. He hesitated, unsure if he should speak. I just think there might be a better way to organize the energy grids," he said. "It might be simpler for maintenance and more efficient for distribution." Lyra tilted her head, considering his words. "Explain it to me," she said, gesturing toward the holographic display. For the first time, Kale felt a spark of hope. He stepped forward, pointing at the lines and nodes on the display. As he spoke, he realized that the words flowed more easily than ever before. He explained, step by step, how small changes in the energy conduits could improve efficiency and reduce the chance of malfunctions during peak activity. The other engineers murmured among themselves, clearly unsure how a human had conceived such ideas. Lyra listened carefully, her expression calm but thoughtful. When he finished, she nodded. "This is worth testing," she said. Her words were simple, yet they carried authority. Kale could hardly believe it. No one else had given him this kind of attention, let alone approval. The trial began. Kale worked alongside alien engineers who were initially skeptical, but under Lyra's supervision, they followed his instructions. Machines buzzed and lights flickered as energy was redirected, and gradually the system stabilized. Efficiency improved beyond expectations. The other engineers were astonished. Kale could sense their surprise and admiration, though no one said it aloud. Lyra smiled at him. "You see, your perspective has value, never doubt that." Kale's heart swelled. For the first time since arriving on Zirian Prime, he felt seen, not as a human outsider, but as someone who could make a real difference. Yet, he knew he had to be cautious. Not everyone would accept a human on equal terms. He could already feel the whispers behind his back, the subtle looks of doubt and curiosity that followed him. Days passed, and Kale began to explore more of the city. He learned to navigate floating platforms, studied the alien culture, and observed the way their society functioned. Even with Lyra's support, it was clear that humans were outsiders here. Some aliens were curious and friendly, others dismissive and wary. Kale understood that earning respect would take more than intelligence. It would take persistence, courage, and creativity. One afternoon, Lyra invited him to the palace gardens. The gardens were unlike anything he had seen on Earth. Plants glowed with soft light, flowers changed colors with the wind, and water flowed upward in gravity-defying streams. Lyra walked beside him, explaining the significance of certain plants and the balance of energy they provided to the palace systems. "You have a way of seeing solutions where others see only obstacles," Lyra said quietly. "That is a rare gift, Kale." He smiled, feeling warmth he had not experienced in a long time. "I'm just trying to understand," he said. "Everything here is so different." "That is why you are valuable," she replied. "Sometimes being different is the greatest strength." As the sun set over the city, casting rainbow reflections across the towers, Kale felt a mix of wonder and determination. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. Alien societies were complex, their customs intricate, and acceptance would not come overnight. Yet, with Lyra's support, he began to believe that humans could have a place in this galaxy. That night, as he looked out from his small room at the vast city, Kale reflected on the lessons of his first days. Curiosity could be a bridge, intelligence could open doors, and courage could earn respect, even for someone like him, a human among aliens. He did not yet know the challenges that awaited, but he felt ready. The future of his time on Zirian Prime was uncertain, but it was full of possibility, and that thought filled him with hope. The next morning, he awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. He would learn everything he could, contribute wherever possible, and continue to prove that humans had a place here. With Princess Lyra as an ally, Kale realized that equality was not just a dream, it could be achieved. And as the city came alive with the first light of a new day, Kale stepped forward, ready to meet it. He was still an outsider in many ways, but for the first time he did not feel small. He was beginning to understand the power of being human, not in spite of his differences, but because of them. Kale had begun to feel a small but meaningful place in Lumora. Each day brought new lessons, new discoveries, and new challenges. The city, with its floating platforms and glowing towers, no longer felt as alien as it had on his first day, yet every corner still held surprises. Every alien he met seemed to have abilities and skills that Kale could hardly imagine. He admired them, but he also realized that his human mind offered a perspective they had not considered, a combination of intuition and improvisation that sometimes cut through problems faster than logic alone. Princess Lyra continued to watch over him, inviting him into discussions and projects that other humans might never have seen. But despite her support, Kale noticed the subtle signs that many aliens did not accept him fully. In meetings, he sometimes overheard whispers or felt the tension of quiet judgment. Even so, Lyra's encouragement pushed him forward. One morning, Lyra approached Kale with a serious expression. "There is a problem," she said, leading him to a large observation hall. Outside the transparent walls, a strange storm formation was gathering. It was not like ordinary weather. It shimmered with strange light and moved unpredictably across the planet. "Our planetary energy grid cannot handle it," she explained. "If we do not act quickly, parts of the city could lose power, and that could disrupt everything, from transportation to communication to environmental systems." Kale's stomach tightened. This was bigger than any challenge he had faced. He had helped improve small systems before, but a planetary-level crisis was new. "What do you expect me to do?" he asked cautiously. Lyra smiled slightly, as if she already knew the answer. "I want you to propose a solution. You have seen our systems in a way others have not. Trust your mind, trust yourself." Kale nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He spent hours studying the grids, tracing energy flows, and analyzing weak points. The storm moved unpredictably, and the alien engineers insisted that the solution required more power and stronger shielding than the city could provide. Kale's human logic told him otherwise. He suggested an alternate method, redistributing energy in smaller, flexible channels and creating temporary buffers to prevent overloads. The engineers exchanged doubtful glances. "A human solution," one said quietly, "cannot possibly work on a planetary scale." Lyra ignored them. "Test it," she commanded. "Let Kale try." Kale worked with the alien engineers to implement his plan. It was a challenge. Every device, every energy node had to be adjusted in precise sequence. The aliens struggled to follow his instructions at first. His methods were different from theirs, combining instinct with calculation in ways they were not used to. But as they worked, the system began to stabilize. Small lights flickered and hummed, and gradually the grids held firm even as the storm raged outside. By midday, the crisis was under control. Kale had done it. He could feel the energy of the city steadying, the panic subsiding, and the citizens continuing their lives without interruption. Lyra approached him, her eyes bright. "You did it," she said. "You have saved Lumora today." The other engineers looked at Kale with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Some still murmured doubts, but others could not hide their admiration. Kale felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he realized that being human was not a weakness here. It could be a strength, especially when combined with curiosity and courage. As the day ended, Lyra led Kale to the gardens. The sun, though different from Earth's, cast a golden glow over the glowing plants and levitating streams. The storm had passed, leaving the air fresh and cool. Lyra spoke softly, almost as if sharing a secret. "You see, Kale, being different can open doors others do not even notice. You have a gift, and it is more than just knowledge. It is creativity, intuition, and the ability to act when others hesitate." Kale smiled, feeling both humbled and inspired. "I just tried to think of a solution that worked. I never imagined it could help this much." Lyra nodded. "And that is why humans matter. Do not forget it. Your perspective changes more than just energy grids. It changes minds." The following weeks were filled with new tasks. Kale was assigned to improve transportation systems, refine environmental controls, and even suggest ways to optimize communication networks. Every project was a learning experience, and Kale embraced them eagerly. Yet, he knew he had to navigate carefully. Not everyone welcomed change, and his successes had drawn attention, not all of it positive. Some alien officials questioned why a human had been given responsibility at such a high level, hinting that a human's role should be limited to observation, not action. Kale learned to remain calm in these situations. He observed, listened, and continued to do his work with diligence. Slowly, he realized that respect was earned not through confrontation but through results. When the project succeeded, even the skeptics had to acknowledge him. And always, Lyra stood by his side, defending him with quiet authority, reinforcing his growing confidence. One day, Lyra took him to a meeting with the High Council of Lumora. The council was composed of the most experienced and influential aliens, leaders who had shaped the planet for decades. They regarded Kale with polite curiosity, and he felt the weight of their gaze as he entered the chamber. "Kale," Lyra began, "we face another challenge. A sector of the city's climate control systems is failing due to the recent storm. If we do not stabilize it, the ecosystem of the gardens and surrounding areas will be affected." Kale studied the diagrams projected in midair. The system was intricate, far more complex than anything he had encountered. He took a deep breath, recalling all he had learned. "I have an idea," he said. He outlined a plan that combined existing alien technology with simple human engineering principles, redirecting excess energy to underused nodes, creating temporary buffers to stabilize the system, and gradually restoring balance. The council exchanged skeptical glances. "A human proposal," one said, "might work, but the risk is great." Lyra spoke firmly. "I believe in his ability, let him try." The council hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Kale set to work. The engineers assisting him were wary but willing. They followed his instructions carefully, adjusting nodes, redirecting energy, and monitoring fluctuations. The system pulsed and hummed, responding slowly but steadily to the changes. Hours later, the climate system was stable. The gardens glowed with renewed life, and the surrounding ecosystems flourished. The council members looked at Kale with respect, some nodding silently, others whispering to one another. Kale felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing he had contributed something meaningful. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes conveying pride and encouragement. As the day ended, Kale walked through the gardens alone, reflecting on his journey. He had come to Xerion Prime as an outsider, a stranger in every sense. He had faced doubt, skepticism, and subtle prejudice. Yet through persistence, creativity, and courage, he had begun to earn a place among these extraordinary beings. He understood that this was only the beginning. More challenges would come, more storms to face, more doubts to overcome. But Kale no longer felt powerless. He had learned that being human here was not a weakness. It was a different kind of strength, one that could open doors and change minds. Later that evening, Lyra joined him in the gardens. "Kale," she said softly, "you are proving something important, not just to them, but to everyone. Humans can be equals. Your ideas, your courage, your willingness to act, they matter here." Kale looked at her, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I only hope I can continue to live up to it." "You already are," she replied, "and together we can show the galaxy that differences are not limitations, are opportunities." The city lights reflected off the streams and floating platforms, casting patterns across the gardens. Kale felt a sense of possibility he had never known on Earth. Here, in a world so different, he could grow, learn, and make a difference. He could be more than a visitor. He could be a part of something larger, something that valued intelligence, creativity, and courage above origin or appearance. As he gazed at the horizon, Kale realized that this journey was not just about survival or acceptance. It was about discovery, about shaping the future, and about proving that humans had a place among the stars. He took a deep breath, feeling the gentle hum of the city around him. The storm was gone, the systems were stable, and for the first time he felt a sense of belonging. He was a human among aliens, yes, but he was beginning to understand that equality was possible, one idea at a time. And as the twin moons rose over Lumora, casting soft light across the city, Kale knew that the true challenges and the greatest opportunities were still ahead. But now he was ready. Kale's reputation in Lumora was growing, though it was still fragile. Some aliens had begun to whisper his name with respect, while others still doubted that a human could truly contribute to their society. Kale, however, had learned to ignore the whispers and focus on the work before him. He spent his days analyzing systems, solving problems, and learning from the alien engineers. But he knew that respect alone was not enough. To secure a lasting place in this world, he would have to prove himself publicly in a way that could not be dismissed. One morning, Princess Lyra arrived at Kale's quarters with an expression of excitement. "Kale, the council has agreed to a public demonstration," she said. "They want to see if your ideas can work on a scale that affects the entire city. If you succeed, it will be impossible for anyone to deny your abilities. If you fail," she let the words hang, though Kale could see in her eyes that she had faith in him. Kale swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. The demonstration would take place in the city's central plaza, where all the citizens could witness it. He had no doubt that this would be the most important challenge of his life so far. He spent the next few days preparing, studying every detail of the systems, running simulations, and consulting with Lyra. Her calm confidence helped steady him, reminding him that he was not alone. The day of the demonstration arrived. The central plaza was filled with aliens of every species, tall, short, winged, multi-limbed, and shimmering in colors Kale could not name. The plaza's platforms floated in precise patterns above the ground, projecting holographic images of the energy networks and city systems. At the center, Kale and Lyra stood before the council and the assembled citizens. The council spokesperson, a tall alien with luminous eyes, addressed the crowd. "Today, we witness a human attempt to stabilize our city's systems in the face of a complex challenge. Let all observe carefully." Kale's heart raced as he reviewed his plan in his mind. The task was simple to explain but difficult to execute. A section of the city's energy network had been overloaded due to recent expansions and needed immediate balancing. Any mistake could create failures across multiple districts. He took a deep breath and began to speak, explaining his approach in clear, simple terms so that even those unfamiliar with the technology could understand. He directed the alien engineers, who followed his instructions with varying degrees of trust. Some were skeptical, their eyes narrow and voices quiet with doubt, but others moved confidently, guided by Kale's precise directions. Step by step, energy was redistributed, nodes were recalibrated, and temporary buffers were installed. Kale noticed small fluctuations and made quick adjustments, relying on his intuition and training. The citizens watched with rapt attention, their alien expressions shifting between curiosity, disbelief, and awe. Kale could feel their eyes on him, and for a moment he feared he might falter. But Lyra's calm presence beside him reminded him to focus. "Trust yourself," she said softly. "You know what to do." Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Kale continued to work, making adjustments, explaining each step, and ensuring that the system remained stable. The floating platforms above displayed real-time energy flows, showing that the network was beginning to respond to his changes. Slowly, the nodes glowed steadily, and the hum of energy filled the plaza with a reassuring sound. A ripple of astonishment spread through the crowd. Citizens whispered to one another, some leaning forward to watch more closely. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of surprise and contemplation. Kale had anticipated skepticism, but he did not expect this level of reaction. Finally, Kale completed the final adjustments. The energy network was fully balanced, and the city system stabilized. Lights brightened across the plaza and surrounding districts. Transportation platforms floated smoothly, communication grids were fully operational, and environmental controls returned to optimal levels. The demonstration was a success. Lyra stepped forward, her voice ringing clearly across the plaza. Kale has shown today that humans, when guided by creativity, intelligence, and courage, can be equals among us. Let this be a reminder that differences are not limitations but opportunities. The crowd erupted in applause and cheer. Aliens of every form expressed admiration, some clapping with multiple limbs, others emitting melodic tones. Even the skeptical council members could not deny the result. Kale felt a surge of pride, but he also felt a deep sense of responsibility. He had proven himself not just for himself, but for the idea that humans could contribute meaningfully in this alien society. After the demonstration, Kale was invited to the palace for a private meeting with the council. They praised his ingenuity, asking questions about his methods and how they might be applied to other sectors of the city. Kale answered each question thoughtfully, sharing his ideas and explaining the reasoning behind his choices. The council members nodded, some smiling, some deep in thought, but all clearly recognizing his talent. As the meeting ended, Lyra approached Kale with a gentle smile. "You have done more than prove your skills," she said. "You have inspired them to see beyond their assumptions. You have changed how they view humans." Kale felt a mixture of relief and humility. He had worked hard, but he knew this was only the beginning. Acceptance was fragile, and respect needed to be maintained. He realized that every success brought new challenges, new expectations, and new eyes watching his every move. In the days following the demonstration, Kale found that his life had changed in small but significant ways. Engineers who had once ignored him now sought his advice. Citizens approached him with questions and ideas. Even skeptics began to nod in acknowledgement when he passed. Kale felt a growing sense of belonging, though he knew that true equality was not simply a matter of recognition. It was earned daily through action, integrity, and persistence. One afternoon, Lyra invited Kale to explore a new project. A distant sector of the city required a unique approach to energy distribution due to its unusual architecture and climate. Kale studied the plans and quickly identified potential solutions, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. Lyra listened carefully, asking insightful questions and helping refine his methods. Together, they developed a plan that promised to improve efficiency while maintaining stability. Kale felt invigorated. He had come to Zirian Prime uncertain and cautious, but now he approached each challenge with confidence and determination. He understood that his human perspective was valuable, not in spite of his differences, but because of them. Every problem he solved, every idea he contributed, strengthened his place in this extraordinary world. As the sun set over Lumora, Kale walked through the central plaza, watching citizens go about their lives. He remembered the first days he had arrived, feeling out of place and unsure. Now he moved among the crowd with a quiet sense of purpose. He was still human, still different, but he was also part of something larger, a society that was beginning to see the value in diversity, creativity, and collaboration. That evening, Lyra joined him in the gardens, where the plants glowed softly in the moonlight. "Kale," she said, You have achieved something remarkable, but remember the journey does not end here. Challenges will continue, and some will test more than your skills. They will test your character, your patience, and your courage. Kale nodded. I understand, but I am ready. I have learned that being human here is not a limitation. It is a strength. And with your guidance, I can continue to grow, to contribute, and to help others see what humans can offer. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the garden. Then we will continue together. The galaxy has room for many minds, and yours is one of the brightest I have seen. Kale felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had come to Zirian Prime as an outsider, uncertain of his place. He had faced doubt, skepticism, and the challenge of proving himself in a society that had never seen a human in such a role. Yet, through perseverance, creativity, and courage, he had begun to earn not just respect, but trust and admiration. As he walked back to his quarters that night, Kale looked up at the stars. He thought of Earth far away and the life he had left behind. He realized that he had changed, not just in skill and knowledge, but in perspective. He understood that being human meant more than strength or speed. It meant creativity, adaptability, and the courage to act when others hesitated. The city hummed around him, alive with possibilities. Kale knew that the greatest challenges were still ahead, but he no longer feared them. He had proven that humans could be equals among aliens, and he had learned the power of patience, persistence, and partnership. As he drifted to sleep that night, Kale felt a quiet excitement for what the future held. Lumora was vast and full of mysteries, and he was ready to face them all. He was a human among aliens, yes, but he was no longer uncertain or afraid. He was equal, capable, and part of something extraordinary. And with that knowledge, Kale felt the first true sense of belonging he had ever known. Kale woke to a soft glow streaming through the crystalline walls of his quarters. The city outside was alive with energy, its towers reflecting the colors of the rising sun. He had come a long way since his first days on Zirian Prime, when every sound, every movement, every alien gaze made him feel out of place. Now he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of the city, part of its people, and part of something larger than he had ever imagined. The past weeks had been transformative. Kale's solutions to the city's energy networks and climate systems had earned him recognition not only from Princess Lyra, but from citizens, engineers, and council members alike. Yet, he understood that being accepted was not the end. It was a responsibility. Every action he took could influence how humans were seen on this planet, and he wanted to ensure that his contributions always reflected care, thoughtfulness, and collaboration. Lyra arrived at his quarters with a smile, her presence warm and encouraging. Kale, there is something important I want to discuss, she said. Her voice held a quiet excitement that made Kale curious. The Council has asked for your guidance on a new initiative. It is the largest project Lumora has undertaken in decades, and they want you to be a leading part of it. Kale's eyes widened. The thought of leading a project of such magnitude was exhilarating yet daunting. He nodded, steadying his nerves. I will do my best, he said. Lyra led him to the planning chambers, where holographic maps of the city floated in midair. The project involved integrating all of Lumora's systems, energy, transportation, climate, and communication, into a unified network that would make the city more resilient and efficient. The scale was immense, and even the most experienced alien engineers expressed concern. Yet Lyra trusted Kale's perspective, knowing that his human creativity could reveal solutions the aliens had not considered. As Kale studied the plans, he felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. This was more than a project. It was an opportunity to demonstrate that humans could contribute in meaningful, lasting ways. He began to outline a strategy, drawing on principles he had learned on Earth and adapting them to the alien technology around him. Lyra listened closely, offering insights and asking questions that helped refine his ideas. Together, they created a plan that balanced innovation with caution, ambition with practicality. The following days were filled with meetings, simulations, and discussions. Kale worked closely with alien engineers, guiding them through his methods while learning from their expertise. He was amazed at the depth of their knowledge, yet he also recognized the value of his human perspective. Where the aliens relied heavily on structured calculations, Kale often noticed patterns and possibilities that were less obvious but highly effective. His contributions were small at first, then increasingly significant, until the team relied on his insights as much as their own experience. As the project progressed, Kale began to notice subtle changes in how he was perceived. Engineers who had once doubted him now sought his advice, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Citizens who had watched the public demonstration now greeted him warmly when he passed through the plazas. Even council members who had been skeptical nodded approvingly when his solutions were implemented successfully. Kale felt a quiet pride, tempered by the awareness that every success brought new challenges. One afternoon, Lyra approached him with a request. Kale, the city council has organized a forum where citizens can ask questions and offer suggestions for the project. They want you to attend and respond directly. Kale paused. Speaking before the public was not new, but this forum was different. It was not just about demonstrating skill. It was about communication, empathy, and leadership. He knew that this would be a critical moment, not only for his reputation, but for the perception of humans in Lumora. The day of the forum arrived. The central plaza was filled with citizens, engineers, and council members. Floating platforms displayed holographic diagrams of the project, showing how energy flows, transportation routes, and environmental systems would be integrated. Kale stood beside Lyra, taking a deep breath as he addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "This project is not about one person or one species. It is about all of us working together. Every idea, every observation, every question matters. Together, we can make Lumora stronger, more resilient, and more connected." The citizens responded with nods and soft expressions of approval. Questions came quickly, ranging from technical details to concerns about environmental impact. Kale answered each carefully, explaining his reasoning in simple, clear terms so that everyone could understand. When citizens suggested improvements or raised concerns, he listened attentively, incorporating their ideas into the plan whenever possible. His humility and openness impressed the audience. Lyra observed quietly, her presence steady and reassuring. She could see the crowd's admiration growing, and she felt pride in Kale's ability to communicate, inspire, and lead. His human perspective, combined with his respect for alien knowledge, created a bridge between worlds that was both rare and valuable. By the end of the forum, the citizens were energized and optimistic. They had participated in shaping the project and had seen firsthand that a human could contribute meaningfully to their society. The council members, too, expressed their approval, noting that Kale's leadership had strengthened both the project and the sense of community within the city. After the forum, Kale and Lyra walked through the gardens, now more vibrant than ever. Plants glowed softly, streams floated gracefully, and the air carried a sense of peace and harmony. Kale reflected on the journey that had brought him here, from the uncertainty of his first days to the challenges he had overcome, to the recognition he now enjoyed. "You have done more than complete projects, Kale," Lyra said. "You have shown that humans can be equals, not because of status or title, but because of creativity, courage, and integrity. You have changed minds, hearts, and perhaps even the future of Lumora." Kale smiled, feeling a warmth he had not known on Earth. "I never imagined I could make such a difference," he admitted. "But I also know that I could not have done it alone. Your guidance, your trust, it made everything possible." Lyra took his hand gently. "We do this together. And now the city itself trusts you, not as a guest, not as an outsider, but as part of their world." In the weeks that followed, Kale continued to work on the city-wide project, implementing improvements and refining systems. The citizens began to participate more actively, offering ideas and feedback. Kale encouraged collaboration, emphasizing that every individual, human or alien, had something valuable to contribute. He discovered that by listening and adapting, he could strengthen both the project and the community around him. One evening, after a long day of work, Kale stood on a balcony overlooking Lumora. The city shimmered beneath the twin moons, its towers reflecting light in every color imaginable. He thought about Earth, the home he had left behind, and the journey that had brought him here. He realized that he had grown not only in skill and knowledge, but in understanding that differences could be strengths, and that courage and creativity could overcome fear and doubt. Lyra joined him, her expression calm and serene. "Kale, the project is nearly complete. The city is stronger, more connected, and more resilient because of your contributions. But more importantly, you have shown that humans have a place here, that we can work together, and that differences can create new possibilities. Kale nodded. It feels incredible to see it all come together. I never thought I would feel so at home in a place so different from Earth. You are home here, Lyra said, not because of your species, but because of who you are. You have earned your place, and you have shown others that equality is not about origin. It is about what we do, how we act, and how we think. The final stages of the project were marked by celebrations, small ceremonies, and public acknowledgments. Citizens, engineers, and council members praised Kale's work, and he felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known. The city systems were unified, energy flows balanced, transportation seamless, and environmental controls optimized. Lumora had become stronger, more resilient, and more harmonious, a city shaped by collaboration and respect. In a private moment, Lyra and Kale walked through the gardens one last time before the official inauguration. The glowing plants, the floating streams, and the soft hum of the city created an atmosphere of serenity. Kale realized that he had not only helped the city but had helped himself grow, learning patience, humility, and the value of working with others. Kale, Lyra said softly, your journey here has been remarkable. You have faced doubt, uncertainty, and challenges, yet you have emerged not just successful but respected, trusted, and valued. You are a human among aliens, and you are equal. Kale felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride. Thank you, Lyra, for everything, for trusting me, guiding me, and showing me that I could make a difference. You showed yourself, she replied, and in doing so you have shown the galaxy what humans can achieve. As the sun rose over Lumora on the day of the city's inauguration, Kale stood beside Lyra, looking out over the bustling city. Citizens moved through the streets, platforms floated smoothly, and the city systems hummed in perfect harmony. The journey from outsider to equal had been long, challenging, and transformative, but Kale had made it. He had proven that humans, when guided by courage, creativity, and perseverance, could stand as equals among the stars. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the city around him. He had arrived as a stranger, uncertain and cautious, but now he was part of Lumora's story. He was a human among aliens, not just accepted, but respected, trusted, and valued. And in that moment, Kale understood that equality was more than recognition. It was a promise, a responsibility, and a possibility that he could continue to build for himself and for others. The city shimmered beneath the twin moons, alive with possibility and hope. Kale knew that challenges would continue, as they always would, but he also knew that he was ready. He had learned that being human was not a limitation, but a strength that could inspire, connect, and transform. As he looked beside him at Lyra, he realized that together, they could continue to create a future where differences were celebrated, collaboration was valued, and every mind, human or alien, could contribute to something extraordinary. Kale had found his place. He was a human among aliens, and he was equal. He was a human among aliens, but the princess made him equal.